The room leaned in like it remembered something. Outside, the city wore its rain like perfume, and on the glass her name hadn't left. She wrote it once with trembling breath. The fog her canvas fingers warm. He watched it fade, then watched her go. And still the drops remember her, falling slow like steps she never took. The window pane had her name, but not her face. She whispered promises into the storm, then broke each one like fragile glass. He never fixed the lock she walked through. If glass could dream, it dreamt of her. Soft reflections no one else could see. The rain came back, but never quite the same. He still leans close when thunder groans, looking for her breath, listening for her ghost in the A smoky saxophone lingers like the echo of her name, bending notes as if the window wept in song. Outside, the world moved on in puddles. Inside, the pain still wore her silence, and he still didn't wipe it clean. We shared an umbrella once, barely. It tilted more his way than mine, and still I kept holding it. He drew constellations in the raindrops, named them all after women I wasn't. But I smiled like I didn't see. The ink from his love notes ran down the seams like tears. I read every blurred syllable, pretended the smudges were sweet. He never wrote my name clearly. Ink in the umbrella, love spelled wrong and weather washed. I held it anyway, even as the words dissolved, even as he turned away dry. The sky remembered more than he did, and the rain told the truth. He spoke in metaphors and left in silence, lit a cigarette with yesterday's match. My hand reached for his pocket it, only to find old receipts. The umbrella snapped backward in the wind, like it knew he was already gone. Still I chased the canopy down the street, as if losing it meant losing him. It never rained the same again. Every drizzle spelled his initials. Every storm wrote new endings. The smell of ink and wet fabric still lingers in my closet. I kept that umbrella, even though it never opened right again. Some loves are paper, beautiful, foldable, and ruined in rain. Some memories drip slow, even years after the clouds clear. Without cover, I let the sky say what he wouldn't, and every drop writes a better story than he ever dared to. We talked of weather like it mattered, but you never knew the clouds I hid, and I never saw the wind in your voice. You laughed when I spoke of thunder, like it was a song you danced to before. But my storms weren't so kind. They crept in through locked windows, flooded letters I never mailed. You dried your hands on someone else's past. I held umbrellas made of paper. You held no one. We never shared the same storm. You chased yours down the street. Mine found me hiding. You called it romance, I called it survival, and neither of us was wrong, but neither was right. We just reigned differently. I stitched my silence into the hem of my coat. Let your secrets spill like gin. Your cloud stayed outside, mine slept in my bed. You kissed like the eye of a hurricane, calm in the middle, cold when it passed. I stayed for the thunder, hoping it would mean more than sound. There were nights you listened too hard, but heard nothing, and nights I said too little, hoping you'd fill in the words. You watched the lightning like a child. I counted seconds between flash and crash. Still, we both flinched. I wanted your rain to soak me. You wanted my sky to clear, but we only gave each other weather. It's raining again. I don't check the forecast anymore. You don't return calls when it storms, but somewhere I hope you hear it and remember. We never shared the same storm, but I still looked for your umbrella in every crowd. She didn't cry loud, she cried into her perfume, so no one would know. Her mirror was always fogged before she even touched the sink. Mascara never stood a chance. The radio played someone else's sorrow, but it hummed her name anyway. She dabbed jasmine at her neck like armor made of scent. He said he loved that fragrance, but only when it wasn't hiding tears. She cried through her perfume, each drop mixing with memory. A rose, a lie, a whisper. She wore heartbreak like a ribbon, and no one could smell the storm. No one could hear her drown. The dressing table knew the truth. Lipstick unused, powder undisturbed. Beneath the pearls, she said she'd go out tonight, but never reach the door. Even the hallways seemed too cruel for heels that couldn't pretend. Some women break things, some women burn. She evaporated slowly in cologne and piano chords. The windows stayed cracked, just enough to let the sand escape, or maybe to let him in. She didn't beg, she didn't call. She just left the bottle open and hoped he'd smell goodbye. Somewhere down the street. By morning, only the scent remained, the kind you chase, you can never hold like her. She left them on the windowsill, letters too brave to burn, too soft to send. They weren't dated, but he'd know the way her art bent like a question, a smudge where she paused too long. She wrote in ink that feared the rain, but left them near the glass anyway, as if the weather could decide for her. led into another, until love looked like longing. Letters that curl in the rain, paper folding like memory, ink running like a name whispered too late. She never said goodbye in them, just if and maybe and still. The first letter said she missed his shadow, the second his laugh through a locked door. By the third she stopped signing her name, by the fifth she only wrote verbs. Wait, want, break. She pressed a kiss into the final envelope and hoped the rain would know where to take it. He came back once, too early for forgiveness, too late for tea. Found the stack damp but faithful like her. She had gone, but her grammar stayed tightly curved, still fragrant with regret. Some messages flow, some dissolve, but the ones that curl in the rain fold themselves into your chest and never dry. He never opened them all. Some stories are better in silence, but he kept them near the window, just in case she wrote again. The thunder didn't scare her anymore. It just reminded her of him, sudden, loud, and gone too soon. He used to slam doors like skies opening. Every argument crack like lightning. She never flinched, she just waited for the silence after, the way one waits for rain that doesn't always come. He'd hum low when he was thinking, a storm in the throat of a man, and she'd press her ear to his chest just to hear the weather change. Thunder sounds like you, heavy, hollow, holy. It rolls across the room, even when no one's there. She doesn't look outside anymore. The sky lives indoors now. He left in the middle of the as if he'd still call her name. There's a corner downtown where the street lamp never blinks. That's where we ended, slow and quiet. We stood like strangers with matching hands. Your coat still knew my perfume, but your eyes were fixed on traffic, not on me. The light flickered, but neither of us moved, like we were waiting for the city to interrupt what we didn't dare say. The street lamp watched us fade, not fast, not loud, just softer than memory. We blurred into background noise, like jazz from a taxi radio. Too far, too near, too close to forget. You reach for a smoke, I reach for your name. Only one of us found what we wanted. I said something about the rain. You said it wasn't supposed to last. I wasn't sure if you meant the weather or me. A bus passed. We both pretended that was goodbye. Some endings were fireworks, ours wore wool coats and quiet throats. We didn't shout, we didn't cry, but the lamp above us flickered like it understood. You never walked away, you just stopped walking toward me. And I didn't stay, I just stayed still. I pass that street sometimes, the lamp's still there doing its quiet job, and I swear it remembers more than we do. She walked into the room like a whisper, not asking for space, just already belonging. There were louder women and brighter dresses, but she brought stillness like perfume. He noticed her the way one notices a pause in a melody they thought they knew. Not sudden, just real. Her lips didn't rush toward his. They met in the hush between what might be said and what should stay sacred. She kissed the silence first, as if asking permission from the quiet itself, as if the kiss was a vow to keep things unbroken. He didn't know how to hold her, but somehow she held the moment. She never filled a room, she softened it. Chairs leaned toward her without knowing why. Her laugh 'cause I want to mean it when I do. She hummed while washing her hair, that was her rebellion, soft defiance. And when she walked past the piano, the keys stirred, as if remembering a song. Not all beauty needs music. Some write it with glances, and some, like her, leave lyrics in the hush. He tells people she was quiet, but not inside. He still listens to silence sometimes, just to hear her again. He tells people she was quiet, but not inside. He still listens to silence sometimes, just to hear her again. They name storms after women when they break things, but no one asked her what broke her first. She walked like wind before it turned cruel, soft at first, then all at once he loved her like a fire escape, only when the house was smoking. She warned him in whispers, he heard thunder but stayed anyway, as if he'd never learned what lightning costs. There's a storm named after her, somewhere in the coast of memory. It took the roof off his heart and left the walls still dripping. She spun like rain over jazz, improvised, unrepeatable. She never yelled, she just opened windows until he noticed it was raining indoors. He thought she was fragile, but she was the sky, expanding, collapsing, always too wide to hold. She once kissed him during a blackout. He never trusted light again. The neighbors said she was trouble, but none of them knew her seasons. She stayed warm long after summer, and cold before winter knew its name. He kept a map of her moods, but it never matched the weather. You don't survive women like that. You mark them on calendars. You name your quiet after them. You rebuild and pray it doesn't rain again. When the storm finally left, he didn't chase it, He just sat in the wreckage, calling it beautiful. When the storm finally left, he didn't chase it. He just sat in the wreckage, calling it beautiful. She always carried two things: an umbrella for the weather and a cigarette for everything else. The rain started before the goodbye, so she lit a match and didn't speak. He stood under her umbrella, but never close enough to matter. She exhaled slowly, like the moment didn't deserve to end. He reached for her hand, but she reached for her smoke. Umbrellas and cigarettes, that's all they left each other. Protection and escape. A dry coat, a burning edge. Love doesn't always end loud. Sometimes it just drifts upward like ash. She was always rain-soaked and red-lipped. He was always almost honest. They met at corners too late in the night and left like weather. Uncertain, unclaimed. She once said, if it's still raining when you leave, don't come back. He left anyway. It poured smoke, curls like memory, soft, stubborn, always rising. Her by the door, still damp with the day he walked out. She doesn't light cigarettes anymore, but she still buys matches. Some love is filtered, some burns straight through. He was both, and she inhaled every word. The rain stopped sometime after midnight, but she stayed on the stoop, watching the smoke fade into the dark. Because even silence needs something to hold. We said goodbye, standing still, but the sidewalk kept moving, carrying our silence away. You reached for my hand like a habit. I let you, but neither of us held on. There were footsteps behind us, cars humming past, but we made no sound, just lips parting without words, just hearts rehearsing absence. The sidewalk swallowed our goodbye, took it between the cracks. No echo, no aftertaste, just the shape of two people pretending not to break. I looked down, you looked away. Even the ground seemed to wince. You said something about catching a train. I said I'd be fine. Both were lies. The city had seen worse endings, but ours felt personal. I could hear my shoes say stay, but yours said leave. Over and over until it hurt to listen. We didn't hug, that would have meant remembering. We didn't cry, that would have meant staying. Instead we gave the street a quiet kind of heartbreak, one it could fold into its wet concrete. I stepped left, you stepped right, and somewhere in between we left something neither of us claimed. Sometimes I walk that block again, just to see if the ground still remembers where we stood. It does, but it never says a word. She kept the windows closed, but the thunder still got in. He always waited behind it. He never knocked, just appeared between flashes, a shadow in the hallway mirror. His voice came low, like thunder far from the storm. She knew better than to answer, but she always listened. Love doesn't need doors, only memories. He waited behind the thunder, in that second after the sky shouts, before it breaks. She could feel him in the stillness, the part of the storm that hurts more than sound. He was gone before the flood, left with dry hands and a wet promise, but storms remember who started them. She hears him now in heavy clouds, in the hum of ceiling fans, in the pause before rain. He isn't weather, he's the ache that chases it. Some men leave footprints, he left forecasts. She learned to read the wind, to smell his name in the lightning. Even thunder carries secrets. and she kept them all. She doesn't fear storms anymore, only what follows, the knock that doesn't come, the name whispered by rain. It thundered last week. She smiled just slightly, not because he was back, but because she didn't open the window.
She once asked the sky to remember her. It did, but only in the rain. There was a night she stood barefoot on a tiled porch, watching the sky rewrite her story. The city forgot her long ago. The clouds said her name in every drop. She heard it in the rhythm, in the pause between patters. Her name not spoken, just soaked into pavement. My name in a raindrop. That's how I live now. Falling, breaking, briefly seen in a window pane, then gone. No echo, no reply, just water remembering me. He used to say my name like it was new. Now he says other names with the same breath, but none of them hold thunder, none hang in the air like mine did. I was the downpour before he learned to carry umbrella. I wrote my name in fog once, watched it vanish from the glass. That's how people forget you, not with fire, but with time and condensation. Soft erasure, gentle goodbye. Still the rain remembers, still it calls, it rolls down his collar and makes him pause, but only for a moment. So if he walks in the storm and hears something soft, something familiar, that's just me falling again.
people leave through words, he left through weather. And I still smell him when it rains. His coat was always damp at the collar, from walks he took without saying why. He carried the storm like cologne, cedar smoke, and something sad. When he held me, it was like standing in a garden, just after the sky gave up clean but not empty. The smell of him after the rain, that's what I miss. Not the man, but the memory he wore. It stayed in my sheets, in my hair, even in silence he lingered. He never dried off quickly. He liked the way the water clung, like it knew him better than I did. He once said, the sky has a way of forgiving, but he didn't, and neither did I. Still I washed his shirt 3 times before the scent faded, and cried all 3. Some ghosts don't speak, they drip, they soak doormats and window frames. They breathe in through open windows when no one's home. He was a storm that never knocked. He left nothing behind. No notes, no keys, just a smell too tender to forget, too soft to curse. Now when clouds roll in, I open every window, not to wear him out, but to let him back in. You said it wouldn't rain that night, but the sky didn't listen, and neither did I. You swore the clouds were just passing through, that thunder meant nothing this time. I held your coat tighter, even though I knew it wouldn't hold. You smiled like a lie, told too many times to sting. We walked anyway, straight into the dark, as if the weather couldn't touch us. Rain fell like you promised, lay soft and too much all at once. Each drop said, I told you so. Each puddle looked like the truth, and your words, they never dry. You kissed me under a flickering street lamp, and I pretended the light was steady. Your hand shook just enough to tell me what your voice wouldn't. We didn't run when the sky. Before believing anyone, I watch the clouds like they owe me something. Because even lies sound lovely in the mouth of a man wearing rain like devotion. Don't promise dry skies if you plan to leave wet footprints. Don't say forever if you only mean until it rains. It's dry tonight, but I still carry an umbrella, because once love came with a forecast and I forgot my coat. Water forgets fast, but not footsteps, and not his. We walked along the river once, his shoes squeaking in rhythm with regret. He didn't hold my hand, but his shadow followed mine. The water mirrored everything except what we meant. He said nothing that night, and I listened harder because of it. There are footsteps in the water's memory, not mine. His. They echo in the shallows, they linger beneath bridges. Wherever he walked, the current still shifts. And sometimes, so do I. I came back years later, just to see if he was still there. The path had cracked, but the ache was smooth. The wind blew familiar. I heard his name in the slap of a boat rope, the same kind of silence that spoke volumes when he left. Water moves on, it doesn't mean it forgets. It just wears things down until they fit in the silence. I still look for his reflection in puddles I pass, not because I expect it, but because some echoes don't know when to stop. If he ever returns, tell him I'm still listening. But for the shape his footsteps left behind. The water ran city was soaked and spinning, but we found rhythm in the spaces between thunder. You pulled me from the doorway into the open sky. No music, just rain and your laugh. Your shoes were ruined. My hair clung like ribbon, but your hand was steady, and so was the moment we danced. Not because it was smart, but because it was us. We danced inside the downpour, two shadows swirling in streetlight shimmer. Each drop applauded, each step rewrote what sorrow had written. The storm didn't stop, but it softened. People watched from under awnings, wrapped in dryness and doubt, but we spun like jazz notes sliding off tempo. You whispered something I never quite caught, but I've held it in my chest ever since, like a chord too beautiful to resolve. It's rare to be reckless and still feel safe, but you made the storm feel welcome. And I never wanted to be dry again. There are moments that ruin umbrellas forever. Even now, when it rains in the wrong season, I look up and wonder if your feet still remember how we moved. The rain ended, but we didn't stop dancing. We just swayed slower until goodbye found the beat. We just swayed slower until goodbye found the beat. The rain said a lot that night. It tapped the glass, it traced old names, but some things it forgot to say. I waited by the window like a question left unanswered. The streetlights flickered in apology. I thought the rain would explain you, deliver some hidden meaning with every drop, but all I got was rhythm, no reason. All I got was the echo of steps you didn't take. What the rain forgot to say was why you left so slowly but felt so sudden. Why your goodbye felt like the weather changing keys. The rain said a lot, but not what I needed. Lit a candle to hear something besides myself, but even the flame trembled like it missed your breath. The rain told stories on the rooftop, but none were ours. I leaned in, pressed my cheek to the window pane, as if the sky would whisper what you never did. Some storms speak in thunder, some hide their truth in drizzle. Yours was both loud then gone. I begged the night for closure, but all I got was a wetter version of the same silence. If the rain ever remembers, tell it I'm still listening. Tell it to finish the sentence you started when your eyes changed shape. It's raining again. Same sound, same ache, but this time I don't expect it to speak for you. It's raining again. Same sound, same ache, but this time I don't expect it to speak for you. By the time the last cloud passed, no one remembered what the rain was trying to say. She didn't cry that night. She just opened the window and let the silence come in with the air. The streets were drying, but not her memory. It clung to the curtains, settled in the carpet, and waited. He didn't write, he didn't call, but the echo of him still knocked on quiet doors, and she answered every time. The storm didn't leave, it just laid down quietly in the corners of her room, in the folds of old coats, in the pause before a new name. So when they ask where he went, she smiles, not because she's moved on, but because storms don't really go. They just fall asleep, and sometimes they dream of you too. So when they ask where he went, she smiles, not because she's moved on,